Now, this section is on robotic process automation and rule-based systems, which are related. RPA, as many people refer to it, is kind of, as I said, the dumbest of AI technologies, but getting smarter all the time. Particularly, companies, vendors are saying, we can link it to machine learning, or we can link it to natural language processing. It's not really a physical robot, and I don't really like the name robotic process automation, but it seems to have stuck. It's really just a piece of software, and what it does is it will perform structured digital tasks, typically back office tasks, and mimic a human in doing so. The tasks, of course, have to be pretty consistent and structured and repeatable. As I said, it's not that smart. There is a process flow that's specified in advance, driven by rules that a company can specify, and also a kind of a graphic flow diagrams to say first, you do this, and then you do this, and so on. And this technology is often called a swivel chair technology because it's as if a human user were sitting in a swivel chair and kind of swiveling back and forth, going from one system to another. These systems can interface with multiple different systems through the, quote, presentation layer, basically as a human user would. And in many cases, they are used for moving information from one system to another, maybe extracting information from a customer email and putting it into some sort of transaction system, for example. But these technologies are very popular. They have a number of strengths. One, they're really easy to implement. In many cases, they don't even need much consulting help. They typically have relatively high, fast ROI compared to most AI technologies. They allow sort of what's called often in financial services straight-through processing with little or no human intervention. And as I suggested, AI and RPA together can be pretty smart and can learn a bit and can start to make more complex decisions in the process based on data and analysis. And most of the things that RPA does, arguably humans shouldn't have been doing anyway. It's mostly boring, repetitive work, and for the most part, human workers are pretty happy giving that up. Now, there are some shortcomings. RPA doesn't learn on its own and can only act on preset rules. As I say, you maybe can combine it with other technologies that might allow some learning. The rules might need to be revised as your business changed, and if you change the underlying systems with which RPA interfaces, you're going to have to change how RPA uses that system. That's not a big deal if you have one or two little RPA robots, but if you have 1,000, that could be a big task. The AI capabilities so far that can be combined with RPA are pretty narrow. AI in general performs narrow tasks, so that's not surprising. And even with some AI capabilities, RPA may not be smart enough for some applications. So you don't necessarily want to use it as your only AI platform. There are only certain things that it can do. Now, as I said, rule-based systems are a component of RPA. And these were very popular in kind of the last generation, the last AI spring, when everybody was very excited about expert systems in the 80s and 90s. And as you might suspect, the rules use if-then statements to make a series of decisions. It works pretty well up to a point if there aren't too many rules. Typically, once you get over 100 or 200 rules, the rules start to interact in funny ways, and changing the rules can be difficult and time-consuming. But they're still used in applications like insurance underwriting, credit approval in banking. And most of the organizations I talk to say, they do a good job of pricing insurance. We don't really need any more sophisticated technology. Even though they have been around for a while. This is a picture of a old AI-based system that ran on Lisp and was optimized for rules. You don't see that much around anymore, but the technology hasn't gone away, and rules do provide a bit of kind of explanation and transparency that a lot of organizations found appealing.